Athletes and their noble political causes. Throughout history, athletes have been known to be champions for not just their respective teams and associations through their performance in their sport, but by echoing the political causes that are dear to them. As sport figures, society holds great reverence to these individuals as they strive towards excellence through their chosen fields. And when these people succeed over the sporting challenge, the great feats they perform become a celebration of humanity. And as worldly events cannot be held separate from the world of competition, athletes often raise their voice to echo a sentiment that they support. Nowadays, these contenders and champions of the physical hold a powerful platform in which they now have the ability to reach millions of people, providing a louder voice than ever before. These activist athletes are now on the forefront of change in society, and whether it's a plain statement or a post on social media or some action that becomes viral, it's clear that athletes have a say for the many who listen. Colin Kaepernick. Football. Since this is one of the most memorable acts of modern sports history in reference to a political stand that an athlete has made, we start with Colin Kaepernick. In 2016, while playing for the San Francisco 49ers at the team's final preseason game, Kaepernick kneeled during the U.S. national anthem and continued to do so at the start of NFL games in protest of police brutality and racial inequality in the United States. Leading up to the 2016 season, Kaepernick had already been vocal on social media with his stand and social commentary on police shootings. Since then, he had already opposed the tradition of standing during the anthem, which later escalated to kneeling, which to Kaepernick expressed his position stating, "I'm not going to stand up to show pride in a country that oppresses black people and people of color." This action led to an initial backlash, which some may say led to Kaepernick getting released from his contract with the 49ers, becoming a free agent. His situation became a topic of national debate and elevated his personal stand even despite opposing opinions towards him and his act. In October of 2017, Kaepernick filed a grievance against the NFL, accusing league owners of collusion to keep him out of the league. The case progressed until February of 2019, when it was announced that Kaepernick had reached a confidential settlement with the NFL and withdrew his grievance. Despite not being in the NFL since then, Kaepernick has become an icon through his principled fortitude. He has since received commendations and awards due to his humanitarian endeavors and continued to raise funds and work with organizations such as his $1 Million Pledge movement towards charities that work in oppressed communities. Though Kaepernick isn't considered a pioneer towards athletes and activism, he is, however, at the forefront of this recent wave of activist athletes who have taken a more vocal stance using their platforms to echo society's sentiments, leading many to refer to these athletes as members of the Generation Kaepernick athletes who uplift voices towards social justice. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, basketball. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who was born Chris Wayne Johnson, played in the NBA from 1990 to 2011 for the Denver Nuggets, Sacramento Kings, and Vancouver Grizzlies. In 1996, while playing for the Nuggets, Abdul-Rauf refused to stand for the Star-Spangled Banner before games, stating that the flag and the song were symbols of oppression. Despite getting suspended and a hefty fine for his refusal to stand, Abdul-Rauf worked out a compromise with the league, where he would stand during the national anthem but would close his eyes and look downward. During these moments, he expressed that he would silently recite an Islamic prayer for those who are suffering from all walks of life and ethnic backgrounds. Megan Rapinoe and the United States women's national team, soccer. Megan Rapinoe became one of the biggest names in sports in 2019 after leading the USA to victory at the Women's Football World Cup. As a sports superstar, she quickly became a national sensation, which led to plenty of collaborations and endorsements. But aside from her commercial rise, Rapinoe also uses her platform to lead a fight for equality in sport in terms of racism, gender, and sexuality. In September of 2019, Rapinoe was named FIFA Player of the Year, alongside football superstar Lionel Messi. She used her acceptance speech as an opportunity to draw attention to a range of issues, including racism in sport. She has also showed her support and solidarity with Colin Kaepernick by taking a knee in support of his efforts and the actions against him. As a proud member of the LGBTQ+ community, Rapinoe has always showed support for athletes and individuals who fear the backlash of coming out saying, "We see you and we're with you." After winning the World Cup in France, Rapinoe, alongside teammate Alex Morgan, led the United States women's national football team in fighting for equity in women's sports. In March 2019, the team collectively filed a lawsuit against the U.S. Soccer Federation to fight for a pay raise compared to their male counterparts. Considering that they've achieved 2 World Cup titles and have outperformed the men's national team, achieving far more success as a team, yet despite their success, they get paid far less than the men's team, leading the women's team to demand equal pay. However, Rapinoe and the team's fight for equal compensation continues in May of 2020. A federal judge dismissed the U.S. women's team's equal pay claim, stating that there was a difference in the structure of contracts made. The women's team have promised to appeal and press on with a fight. John Carlos and Tommy Smith. Running. Considered as one of the most defiant and memorable moments in sports and civil rights history was when American athletes Tommy Smith and John Carlos, after receiving the gold and bronze medals respectively for the 200-meter sprint event, raised their black-gloved hands to the sky when the national anthem began. This act signified the civil rights struggle for African Americans and brought the Black Power movement at the time onto the global stage. In what would be known as the Olympic Black Power Salute, the demonstration is regarded as one of the most overtly political statements in the history of modern Olympics. 30 years later, Tommy Smith would revise the gesture, stating that their hands raised were not a salute to Black Power, but rather a human rights salute. Billie Jean King. Tennis. An icon in the world of tennis, Billie Jean King raised the standards of the sport through sheer determination. In 1973, amidst the gender equality issues of the time, King organized the early beginnings to the Women's Tennis Association, which still exists today. Due to the clamor for equal pay for men and women in tennis, she threatened legal action if the purses for the women's tournaments did not equal to that for the men. She also brought these issues onto a bigger audience when she answered a tennis match challenge against men's champion Bobby Riggs in what was dubbed as the famous Battle of the Sexes, defeating him in front of a crowd of 30,000 people strong and more than 5 million viewers worldwide. Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan. Basketball. As sports figures, we expect plenty from our athletes when it comes to physicality. And yet, one aspect that is usually neglected is their mental health. In 2018, DeMar DeRozan, who currently played with the San Antonio Spurs, and Kevin Love of the Cleveland Cavaliers, both made public statements expressing their struggle with mental health and bouts of depression, with some instances stemming from the pressure associated with being in the public eye. This raised the dialogue of addressing and nurturing mental health, especially within the league. The awareness brought on by the two resulted in the NBA requiring each team to have a full-time licensed mental health professional on staff. Chris Klue, football. Chris Klue played in the NFL as a punter from 2005 to 2012. His voice on social issues became a pivotal point in his career as a supporter of same-sex marriage. He wrote several articles challenging state policies against it. In 2014, Klue claimed that he had been released from the Minnesota Vikings due to his vocal support of same-sex marriage and had accused members of the coaching staff of telling him to stop speaking out on the issue. His support for same-sex marriage and the LGBTQ+ community has led to Klue being recognized for starting the conversation and furthering it within the athletic community. He even got inducted into Ellen DeGeneres' Hall of Fame, since NFL punters are unlikely to be voted into the league's Hall of Fame. The 2020 NBA restart, 2020 MLB, and the 2020 Milwaukee Bucks. No other civil rights issue has been more relevant in modern times than in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. With massive civil uprisings that coincided with the sports league's efforts to resume their seasons amid the COVID-19 pandemic, players, teams, and those behind the league decided to offer their voice and actions to protest within the USA by joining in the sentiment as they resumed the games. The NBA featured a number of visual statements that included a Black Lives Matter slogan displayed across the court, while players wore jerseys that replaced their names with political statements in the name of policy and human rights change. In their move to join in the solidarity, Major League Baseball started its 2020 season with a stylized MLB logo incorporated with the BLM logo, which was featured on the pitching mound, while patches were worn on jersey sleeves. In the continuing effort, the 2020 Milwaukee Bucks stopped the games within the NBA restart. In August 26, 2020, 2 days after the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the Bucks refused to take the floor for their playoff game against the Orlando Magic. To show their support, all other NBA teams refused to play their games as well, which caused another stoppage to the NBA season. This move in the NBA led to a wave of game stoppages, with teams from the WNBA, Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, and several individual players such as tennis superstar Naomi Osaka opting to stop their scheduled games during this time to show solidarity and support. What do you think about these athletes and their noble political causes? Feel free to share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more.